My name is Nathan Hockett. I'm here to provide a review of the book The Voice Catchers by Joseph Turow. The book is a review of the troubling developments in voice data collection and analysis industries, how companies are gaining more and more access to our home via use of smart home devices like Amazon Echo and Google Home. The book is a warning and a conversation starter about what consumers should be on the lookout for and potential harms should these technologies be abused. So, going through some of the surprises for me in this book, first was the rapid advance in voice tech and call centers. So, I was really surprised to hear about some of the capabilities of companies like Nuance to analyze what you say, how you say it, and link it up to the company's broader information about you and use that to more successfully upsell, to improve your experience and help retain customers. I think this technology has clear crossover potential to smart home devices. Right now, 35% of adults have a smart home device, and it's plateaued in the last few years, primarily due to shortfalls in the technological efficacy. So you ask it a question and it gives you an irrelevant answer. I think this technology that they're developing in call centers and the rise of AI in processing that data is going to help you get more practical and useful responses, and the technology is going to become that much better. You combine that with the aggressive marketing tactics used on Prime Day by these companies, and you're going to see another spike in adoption of the smart home speakers. My second surprise was that Apple is somehow losing in this space. Apple rarely loses anything, so I don't know how long that's going to last. They do have a strong commitment to privacy that it seems like consumers don't yet care about. The overall trend has been to give up personal information and privacy in favor of convenience. So, outside of a couple troubling instances where, they discovered voice data still around on Amazon Echoes that was supposed to be have deleted, or they sent texts in error based off of what people were saying in the home. There's outrage at those, but really nothing impactful to the overall growth of the smart speaker market. I think, like with the call centers, this technology to harness voice data is going to become more sophisticated, and it'll become less obvious to the consumer. So as it gets better, are these companies going to continue to self-regulate and operate with restraint? Continue to not allow advertisers in to all their data to understand, to listen to people as well? The economics say probably not, because they're not making a lot of money on these right now. But they are restrained by the consumer attitude towards it. So if they were to abuse it and consumers revolt and you invite regulation, that wouldn't be good for business either. So it'll be an interesting trend to watch how they develop this, and I assume they will continue with a cautious approach. Third biggest surprise with this book was kind of a critique. The weight the author gave to patents and privacy policies, I think, was a bit misplaced. It showed a lack of understanding of why those documents are generated and who's doing them and for what purpose. Privacy policies are written by lawyers. They're meant to minimize risk, and they don't want to create an administrative burden on their client. So I wouldn't expect them to say how long they're going to hold on to data or what exactly need to do with it, because then they're legally bound to do so. I wouldn't expect to see that in there, or I wouldn't really expect any consumer terms and conditions or privacy policy to be very restrictive on the company. On patents, technology firms write a lot of patents. I've worked for multiple Fortune 500s and small entrepreneurial shops. We write as many patents as we can to try to keep competitors out of the space going to the future, even if we don't really intend to invest in it. We're writing everything down that we can to get approval for a patent, not necessarily intent. I think a more useful piece of data, which is granted hard to probably get your hands on, would be a proportion of R&D spend by these companies on voice data collection and analysis technologies. If it's a relatively small part of the budget, I don't know if all of these scenarios he envisions in the future are actually going to play out. But if they're investing a significant portion, 50%, maybe they are going to go do this. So I think that data would have been more impactful than what was shared in the book. One of my favorite brands is Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth makes like loungewear and bedding out of bamboo fibers. I'm wearing one of their shirts right now. It's very comfortable. How they'd be impacted by these trends in this industry is they don't have any physical location. They're an online only retailer. So they would need either an app or a partnership with big tech or a third-party advertising firm to get any sort of voice data access. And I think that could be dangerous for them. And in addition, as a niche retailer, voice data and the voice interface is not suited for, in-depth product research. Nobody's going to go find the 10th most popular product in a category using a voice device. They're going to ask it what the best linen is, and it's going to give you the top 2 or 3 choices, probably led by Amazon Basics. And they're going to need to maintain their lead in that market segment of bamboo fibers and luxury linens. A contextual experience that they could provide using voice data, this is going to sound creepy, they could listen to people sleep. They offer a lot of sleepwear and bedding, so they could partner with like a health app or something like that to analyze the audio of your sleep. If you're snoring, you need a more supportive pillow to keep your head up. If you're shivering, you need this pajama set. If you're tossing and turning and throwing off sheets, it sounds like, because you're hot, here's some, nice sheets that keep you cool. So they could provide personalized recommendations based on what they hear while you're sleeping. That would require some pretty, I think, good privacy protections, maybe partnering with somebody like an Apple who has a health app and who is valuing, health and privacy. But we'll see what could come out of that. In conclusion, it was a very interesting book. Relayed a lot of important questions about what we're going to allow from a privacy standpoint by these big companies. Right now, they're self-regulating and not abusing it, it appears. But we'll see how that holds. I think if you follow the trend of social media, they start innocuous and then profiteer. So we'll see how that goes. I did like that the book provided a recommendation for regulatory measures that could be taken to help protect the consumer. I do expect those are something we're going to need in the future. Thank you.